My husband and I had been married for 6 years. Like any couple, we had our arguments, our little disagreements over silly things. But nothing that ever shook the foundation of our life together. Nothing that made me question us. Until last month, that's when everything shattered. It started on a Friday night. It's a completely ordinary Friday. He told me he was going out to visit a friend, a quick catch-up. He kissed me goodbye, said he wouldn't be too late, and walked out the door. But he didn't come home. The night ticked by, and his side of the bed remained empty. No texts, no calls, just silence. At first, I told myself not to panic. It was fine. Maybe his phone died. Maybe he had a bit too much to drink and decided to crash at his friend's place instead of driving. That was the responsible thing to do, right? I tried to rationalize it, to quiet the growing unease in my stomach. I went to bed, convincing myself I'd wake up to him snoring beside me. But when Saturday morning came, the space next to me was still cold. Now the unease had blossomed into full-blown worry. I started calling him, but every call went straight to voicemail. I texted him, "Where are you? Please just let me know you're okay." Nothing. The hours crawled by. Saturday evening arrived, and the silence in our home was deafening. I started calling his friends, one by one. The answer was always the same. "No, I haven't seen him. I thought he was with you." By Sunday night, the worry had curdled into a toxic mix of fear and fury. I was picturing every worst-case scenario: an accident, a mugging. My mind was a whirlwind of terrifying possibilities. I finally broke down and went to the police station. I felt foolish, hysterical, but I didn't know what else to do. They were polite, but dismissive. "Ma'am, adults have the right to disappear. We can't file a missing person report until it's been over 72 hours. 72 hours. It felt like an eternity. I went home feeling completely helpless, defeated. I spent the next day, Monday, in a daze. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I just sat on the couch, staring at the front door, jumping at every sound. I was exhausted, drained, and so incredibly angry. How could he do this? How could he just vanish without a single word? Finally, around 10 o'clock that night, just as I was about to give up all hope, I heard it. The sound of a key turning in the lock. The door creaked open, and there he was. He looked like he'd been through a war. His clothes were dirty and rumpled. His hair was a mess, and his eyes were wide, haunted. For a moment, I was just relieved. He was alive. He was home. But then the anger, the fury from the last 3 days, just erupted. "Where have you been?" I screamed, my voice shaking. Do you have any idea how worried I was? I called everyone. I went to the police. "What happened to you?" He just stood there, looking pale and shaky. He closed the door softly behind him and whispered, his voice barely audible, I couldn't tell you." That just made me angrier. "Couldn't tell me. I'm your wife. I deserve the truth. Tell me right now." He took a deep, shuddering breath, looked me straight in the eye, and the words that came out of his mouth stopped my world from spinning. "I got kidnapped." I froze. Kidnapped. It was a word from movies, from news reports, not from my life. He launched into this elaborate story. He said some men from an old business deal, a deal that had gone sour years ago, had tracked him down. They'd grabbed him on the street, forced him into a van, and held him in some abandoned warehouse. He said they threatened him, roughed him up a bit. They took his phone so he couldn't call anyone for help. He described his escape in vivid detail, how he tricked one of the guards, made a run for it, and hid for hours until he felt it was safe enough to catch a taxi home. As he spoke, a part of me, the part that loved him, wanted so desperately to believe him. I wanted to run to him, to hold him, to tell him how glad I was that he was safe. I wanted to forgive the silence, the worry, because he'd been through something unimaginable. But then, as he stood there in the entryway, I noticed something. His wallet was on the floor. It must have fallen out of his pocket when he came in. And sticking out of it was a thin slip of paper. A receipt. My hand trembled as I bent down to pick it up. It was from a bar. But not just any bar. It was a bar 2 cities away, and the date printed on it. The Friday night he disappeared. The story crumbled. The elaborate tale of kidnapping, the haunted look in his eyes, it was all a performance. He hadn't been held captive in a warehouse. He had been on a secret weekend trip. And you don't go on a secret weekend trip to a bar 2 cities away by yourself. You go with someone, another woman. The realization hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. The anger had cooled into something icy and hard. I held up the receipt, my hand perfectly steady. "You were kidnapped?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "Or were you at this bar?" he stammered. His face went from pale to beet red. The lies just fell apart. I didn't mean to. Just happened. It just happened." 3 days of me going out of my mind with worry, and his excuse was it just happened. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I didn't see the man I married. I saw a stranger. A man who would rather invent a terrifying, dramatic lie about being kidnapped than admit to his own betrayal. A man who thought I was stupid enough to believe him. "You lied to my face," I said, the words feeling like stones in my mouth. "You concocted this insane story, and you actually thought I wouldn't find out. That's who you really are." I didn't wait for another pathetic excuse. I walked past him, went into our bedroom, and packed a bag. I grabbed my keys, my purse, and walked back to the front door where he was still standing, speechless. I didn't look at him again. I just left. For the next week, my phone blew up. Non-stop calls, endless texts trying to explain, trying to apologize, trying to make me feel guilty. I blocked his number. Then I changed my own. I went through my contacts and deleted every single person connected to him. I erased 6 years of my life as if it were a corrupted file. It's a strange thing to realize. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't the thought of losing someone to some external danger, to an accident or a crime. Sometimes the most terrifying thing is discovering that the danger was never outside. It was the person sleeping next to you all along. The person you trusted with your entire heart. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever been through something similar, know that you are not alone and that your strength is greater than your pain. Please consider subscribing for more stories, and I'll see you in the next video.